Guys, and welcome back to Chengi's World. Oh, we're on a roll, and I believe this will be the last video I'm going to do on the cheating game series, because I have to be honest, it's such a hard and negative subject to talk about that even when I finish recording a video, I feel really drained. I feel like tired because it's just something that is so hard to talk about, but something that is absolutely necessary, because I give a lot of advice to a lot of women out there, and it's just something that continues to come up, and we just feel so lost. But today I want to flip the script a little bit on us, because I want to talk about when you are the one who's having an affair, because we always assume it's the man that's having an affair, but in truth, women have as many affairs as men do. We're just better at covering up. We're just better at making sure that we don't get caught. We just do it better. Which is, I'm not sure if that's a credit to our femininity or not, but we just do it better. So, but I know that for women, our motivation, it's like I said in my video, my first video on why men cheat or why the cheating happens. And especially the video on the main squeeze. If you haven't seen that, please go and watch it. You know, the advice that I give to the wife or the main chick, that why we cheat is really about a deficit in ourselves. There's something that we're lured away by the lusts of our flesh, by something that cannot be satisfied, by the fallen nature of man, by that brokenness within our soul that usually has little to do with the person that we are with. And I said little to do because there usually is something that they do that creates an environment for you to step out on them. Because the truth is, if you're not happy, you would have just left the relationship completely. But the fact that you're looking and starting to handle and deal with other guys out there whilst in that relationship means that whilst there's something wrong, it's not wrong enough for you to walk away. You want a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So, or you are transitioning out of the relationship. But what I know about women is we don't cheat primarily for sexual gratification, which is the difference with men, is that when they do step out, when their lust draw them out, it's usually for sexual gratification. Usually for us women, we would be stepping out for emotional gratification, because somebody remembered to tell us we're beautiful, somebody remembered to appreciate us, somebody remembered to value us. So when we are now stepping out of that relationship, it's because we're looking and yearning for that emotional gratification. So this is why women step out of relationships more so than because he's fit and they wanted to have a shag. So women and men, we operate a little bit differently. Our triggers are a little bit different. So if you're a guy watching this, you must know that if you don't nurture your woman's emotional world and do a good job with it, if you're not the first person to tell her she's beautiful or smart or incredible, then some other guy out there, he's ready to do that for you. And that can be the tipping point between her stepping out on you or not. But this video is for us girls and addressing those issues inside of us. Now, usually by the time a woman is ready to step out on her man, usually the relationship has usually come to the full bloom of she's decided she doesn't want to be in it, but she's kind of hanging in there. Yes, there are times when we want to be in it, it's just that just kind of looks kind of good, and if I can get away with having that, then I will. But the question here is, should you tell? If you are caught, if you are having an affair or you had an affair or coming out of an affair, should you tell your partner? Should you confess? Now, I've always held the belief that confession, sometimes when we do it, is never sometimes for the benefit of the person we're confessing to. Sometimes we want to purge our guilty conscience and leave the other person with the baggage and the pain, and we feel better because we've been honest. You've not been honest for a long time. And sometimes I feel that by not telling in a certain scenario, which we're going to discuss later, you carry the responsibility of that relationship. Now, like I said in my previous video, before you do anything in life in general, but certainly when it comes to relationships, before you answer the question, should I tell or not tell, you need to be sure about your outcomes. What is it that you want to come out of this conversation? Do you want to save your marriage? Do you want it to work? Is the same principle. Or do you want, are you done with it? Are you good to go? Like, you know what? I did this because I was done with you and I just didn't have the nerve to just get up and go. So you need to be able to answer that question. What is the outcome? What do you want to see? Now, obviously, if you want to see that, you know, your relationship restored, then I cannot see how it is possible for you to be in that relationship and keep your mouth shut. Another thing as well is that everything that is done in the darkness has a horrible, annoying tendency to come into the light. So you can, I believe there's a grace that covers us for a second. The mistakes that we make, and God covers over them because He knows that the truth will not serve anyone. He knows the truth. You know the truth. You've repented. You're going to be a better person. But I believe that there's some things that are such a violation against somebody that if I'm saying, you know what, I'm ready to move on, then I think you should just move on. I think you should address the actual issues of that relationship and make those the reason you're moving on, not, well, I found somebody else. It should be, you know, I am leaving because that I'm not happy with this, and this has been going on, and I'm tired, whatever your reasons are. Those led you, were your justification to going with somebody else, or they created an environment that made it easy to go with somebody else. So yes, absolutely, beg your pardon. So absolutely mention those reasons on your departure, but don't leave that person necessarily with the burden that you were also cheating, unless you feel that cheating was something that was so horrific that they're going to find out anyway, and it's probably best that they find out from you. But if you want that relationship to work, if you are hoping it will work, now when you violate a law and you violate trust, you can't come into that relationship, into that scenario knowing you're guilty and be proud or entitled or deserving. You know, you have to realize that they're entitled to their reaction and they're entitled to their decision, and you can't determine what that is. But one thing that I know is that humility and asking for mercy and begging for mercy and being humble and being prepared to be punished by that other person is something that you have to be prepared for. You can't come to somebody in the hopes that they're going to give you an easy way of surviving this betrayal. You know, if you betray somebody regardless of whatever the reasons, and you want that relationship to remain, then you have to prepare to suffer the consequences of that betrayal, especially if you want them to keep you. But also you have to come to the table knowing that they may not want to keep you and that they're well within their rights to do that. And that is how the conversation should really take place, in the form of, you're well within your right. There's something that I want to share with you. It's a good time for you. There's something that I need to get off my chest. And before I do that, I need you to know that you have every right to be angry, to feel whatever it is you're going to feel. And I respect the decision that you are going to make. But I want you to know that after I have shared this, I would like us to work through it and perhaps find a way forward for our relationship, for our family, for our marriage, for our children, whatever it is, so that he knows that he's entitled to his reaction. That other person is entitled to their feelings, they're entitled to their decision, but that you're not telling them as an exit strategy. You are telling them because you're trying to work out the situation. And don't get into because you did this, because you do this, because you do this, and try and make the cheating their fault. You have to take complete responsibility for that one act. Yes, if they were abusing you or doing whatever it is that they were doing, you know, that's a different conversation to have later on as we work through the relationship. But that cannot be the reason why you are confessing this at this point. You know, we can have that conversation as we go along, because the truth is, if the abuse was that bad and things were that bad, you would have left that relationship, right? So you didn't leave because you felt there was still something in there. So you have to give them the right to feel what they're going to feel and decide what they're going to decide. And when obviously you've given that prologue, that before picture, then you just say, look, I have been I met this, tell the story. Don't just say, well, I've been having an affair. You could, but I would recommend telling the story. When I was away on whatever, I was feeling this way, and I met Johnny, and at first it was this, and it escalated into that, and I made a decision to go with it. And at that point, I wasn't, whatever you want to do, but you want to create a story around it so that he doesn't feel like you just woke up one morning and decided to hell. That there was some kind of emotional rationale. There was a thinking process going on. And then you say, and this is what the outcome has been. In my experience, men are a lot more forgiving of infidelity than women, I think, because they're perpetually fighting that urge more so than we are, because we're generally loyal creatures by nature. But I was talking to a guy friend of mine. His wife had an affair, and he knew it because she turned her phone on and she forgot to turn it off, and when she was having sex with the other guy, he was listening to the whole conversation about everything because it had been on. And I said to him, so why did you take her back? And he said, look, it was just sex. And he was telling me a story about a guy in university who caught his girlfriend sleeping with another man in the bed, and the next day they were holding hands on the campus. Because with guys, they're more afraid of the emotional connection, and men are more afraid of being left than us as women. We fear being left, but I think men, it's a lot more chronic for them. So a guy is usually more likely to go and beat up the other guy, strangle him, and put a gun in his head, than to say to you, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore. Very rarely do men walk away because their wife has been having an affair. It's very, very, very rare. Usually they will go and take it up with the other guy because they'll assume that he hunted her down and he took advantage of her, which is probably not a good thing because people could die. The Bible says, when you mess with a man's, somebody's husband, you better, if a man messes with somebody's wife, he better run and leave town, leave city, run to the other side, because the man will be angry enough to kill. So they get angry with the other man more than they get angry with you. So it's probably for the safety and protection of the other person that you don't mention who they are. But I find that men are a little bit more forgiving. Please don't put in the comments, well, my friend's husband wasn't very forgiving. There's always a unique case. There's always an exception to the rule. But by and large, men will forgive it more, especially if they feel that there wasn't an emotional connection. I think, if they feel like you were just having sex, that's how they understand affairs. It was just sex. So, it's a betrayal. I feel hurt. And of course there will be repercussions emotionally in that situation. However, I think, when I was talking to this guy that I was mentioning, he said to me, to be fair, I would be more hurt if they had spent a night together just holding each other and talking and not having sex. That would be more intimidating to me than the fact that she was just having sex with some guy. I thought it was very weird rationale, but it really led me to go into men's minds, and having had a few conversations with men's minds, I realized that they tend to not be so willing to be done with the relationship. Usually it's the woman that's like, I've had enough, I'm moving on with Johnny or whatever, and leaves them. But they are usually more willing to work at it than we would be. So that is not a guarantee that your man is going to be prepared to work at it. It's not a guarantee that he's going to be that guy. He may want to strangle you. He might kick you out of the house. Anything can go down. So be prepared for anything. But when all is said and done, I think what truly matters is you feeling and knowing that you did all that you could, because you never want to leave a relationship not feeling as though you did absolutely everything you could have done to save that relationship. And then just give it time. He might come back, he might simmer down and come back for you, but give it time. Don't become a stalker. Don't force your will. Don't try and get him to talk about it if he's not ready to talk about it. Don't try and let's talk about it, leave him and give him time to process And if you can do that, you stand a good chance. So I am not saying tell him, don't tell him, but I'm just creating for you a set of situations, circumstances, and giving you a frame of mind that can help you if you're in a situation where you've been caught cheating, or you know you're cheating and you're ready to tell. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on Instagram and Facebook as we conclude this series. Guys, I am hoping that it will help somebody out there to restore their lives in whatever shape or form it takes, whether it takes the form of walking away and divorcing, or whether it takes the form of working on your relationship, going for counsel, and bringing and breathing new life into that relationship. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I love you lots. Make sure you subscribe, like, and comment, and goodbye.